The fourth palm of the dragon elephant Prajna palm has been successfully cultivated, and the entire set of palm techniques has reached the level of a spirit-level low-grade martial art. The power of the palm technique is even comparable to the martial arts of the mid-grade spirit level. You cannot practice the palm technique for the time being, but now, you can focus on practicing the sword technique. Tianxin sword technique, a sword technique of the lower grade of the spirit level, has a total of 12 moves, and Zhang Ruoken has only cultivated 3 moves now. Only when the entire set of swordsmanship is completely cultivated can the full power of swordsmanship be unleashed. Zhang Ruoken sat cross-legged on the ground, and 12 picture scrolls appeared in his mind. On each scroll is a figure holding a sword, and the figure seems to come to life, constantly waving sword moves on the scroll. When practicing swordsmanship, Zhang Ruoken couldn't help but grab the soul-flashing sword on the ground, and began to swing the sword moves, and the sword light followed the arm, exuding a sharp sword aura. It took 10 days for Zhang Ruoken to successfully cultivate the 4th move of the Tianxin sword technique, Tianxin full moon. It took 15 days for Zhang Ruoken to successfully cultivate the 5th move of the Tianxin sword technique, Tianxin tide. It took about 15 days for Zhang Ruoken to successfully cultivate the 6th move of the Tianxin sword technique, Tianxin wind and rain. In this retreat, Zhang Ruoken stayed in the inner space of the space-time spar for 43 days, and the outside world had almost half a month. In the past 43 days, Zhang Ruoken not only cultivated the Tianxin sword technique, but also took the 3 halal qi pills every day, and his cultivation has been greatly improved. The true gas reserves in the gas lake have reached 50% of the capacity of the gas lake. With his current cultivation, even if he didn't use the space-time realm and the dragon elephant palm, he would be able to defeat the martial artists of the great pole position of the Suanji realm. Tomorrow is the time for the decisive battle with Fengshilin. It's time to go out for a walk. Zhang Ruoken stood up, and the space within a radius of a few meters emitted a sword chi sound of swish, as if there was an invisible sword flying in the air. This is. Zhang Ruoken's heart was overjoyed, and the realm of sword intent reached a higher level, reaching the peak realm of the sword walking with his heart. The sword goes with its heart and is divided into 4 realms, beginner, middle, high, and peak. There are very few people who can cultivate to the middle level of the sword and walk with their hearts among the martial artists of the Suanji realm, and once they cultivate to the middle level, they can be regarded as strong among the martial artists of the Suanji realm. Huang Yanshan and Duan Jupiter Spirit are both mid-level realms. Zhang Ruoken has the martial arts memory of the previous life, as well as a powerful martial soul, and he actually cultivated to the realm of the peak of the sword in the late stage of the Suanji realm, and he was only 1 step away from stepping into the realm of the sword heart. Reaching the pinnacle of the sword walking with your heart, even if it is picked on the side of the road, a branch or a blade of grass can be used as a sword. Use twigs and blades of grass to kill. Zhang Ruoken's temperament has changed significantly, just like a young sword god. Coming to the courtyard of Yellow Number 1, suddenly, hearing a strange sound behind him, Zhang Ruoken's brows furrowed, and he said in a deep voice, "Who is it?" Zhang Ruoken stepped on the ground with 1 foot, shook a leaf and flew it up, fell between his fingers, and integrated his true qi and sword intent into the leaves, and with a shake of his fingers, the leaves flew out like sharp blades. Bang! The distant wall, pierced by the leaves, left a crack. A black cat kicked out from behind the wall and exclaimed, "Pick leaves and fly flowers." Young man, it's amazing, he has reached the peak realm of his heart at a young age, and it won't be long before he reaches the realm of sword heart. Zhang Ruoken looked at Xiao He, withdrew the true qi in his body, and said, "You went to steal books again." Xiao He walked on his feet, and the person stood up, holding a thick book in his 2 paws, and said, "I have been sealed in the Kunkan Divine Wood diagram for 100,000 years, and I am completely out of touch with the outside world, so I naturally want to read more books to understand the changes in the Kunlun realm in the past 100,000 years." Zhang Ruoken nodded, feeling that what Xiao He said was very reasonable, and he also felt that he should take the time to read more books and learn about the major events that have happened in the past 800 years. It never hurts to know more. Come out with me to see if the fourth brother's injuries have healed. Zhang Ruokan said. Xiao Hei's feet kicked and jumped, jumping onto Zhang Ruokan's shoulders. It lay on Zhang Ruokan's shoulder, just reading a book, and didn't care where Zhang Ruokan was going. Zhang Ruokan and Zhang Shaoku have only met once, and they can't talk about family affection, but they still have a good impression of this fourth brother, and after the retreat, they plan to visit him. Lu Chengfeng and the 3 new students of Yunwu County were rushing in the direction of Longwu Palace, and when they saw Zhang Ruokan halfway, they were immediately overjoyed and immediately greeted them. Lu Chengfeng said, "Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, you are finally out of the customs. It's a big deal." Zhang Ruokan said, "What happened?" Before Lu Chengfeng could speak, a freshman next to him gritted his teeth and said, "9th Prince, during the month you have been in retreat, the Sifang County has been suppressing our students from Yunwu County. Several students have been seriously injured, and others have been bullied by them more or less, which is really miserable. Moreover, I also heard that 2 students from the Yunwu County went out on a mission and disappeared for no reason, and it is likely that the students from the Sifang County country did a black hand behind their backs and killed them outside." Another freshman said, "Those students from the Sifang realm didn't dare to break into the Dragon Martial Palace, so they attacked us, and even I was beaten 3 times. Now when I see them, I can only hide." Zhang Ruokan didn't expect the situation to develop like this, and said, "Don't the elders of the Academy Palace care?" Lu Chengfeng said, "In order to sharpen the students and increase the competitiveness of the students, the elders of the Academy Palace generally do not interfere in the battles between the students. Besides, they also have the support of Elder Situ, and they are even more unscrupulous in the Western Courtyard." Lu Chengfeng said in a low voice, "Elder Situ's status in the Western Courtyard is second only to the Courtyard Master and the 2 Deputy Courtyard Masters. Now, almost all the affairs of the Western Courtyard are managed by Elder Situ." Zhang Ruokan understood that as long as the students of the Sifang County did not kill other students in the open, it would not be considered a violation of the rules of the Academy and would not be punished. As for the 2 missing trainees, who can prove that they are dead? Who can prove that it was the students of the Quartet County who secretly attacked them? Zhang Ruokan said, "They are taking revenge." Zhang Ruokan and Ziai Qian killed nearly 100 young warriors of the Sifang County during the first round of the Academy examination, and the Sifang County now launched a revenge against the students of the Yunwu County, and even wanted to drive all the students of the Yunwu County out of the West Courtyard. One of the freshmen said with a sad face, "I've had enough of this month. Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, you must not be defeated tomorrow. If you are defeated by Fengshilan, then our students of Yunwu County will be completely defeated, and they will definitely be suppressed even more fiercely by the students of the Sifang County." The other freshman nodded and sighed, "If even His Royal Highness the 9th Prince is defeated, I don't dare to continue to stay in the Western Courtyard, so I can only return to Yunwu County." Other than that, the 2 freshmen also nodded. Zhang Ruokan said, "Don't worry, since the students of the Quartet County are going to start a fight, then I will accompany them to fight." "That's right. Lu Chengfeng, why did you come to me?" Lu Chengfeng slapped his forehead and said, "I almost forgot about business. I received news that Naixuan, Wang Lang, and Xie Zhao of the Sifang County are going to find trouble with the 4th Prince, Zhang Shaoku, with a group of students." Zhang Ruokan's eyes sank, and he said, "It's Naixuan again, isn't the lesson from the last time enough?" Lu Chengfeng said, "The reason why they chose to attack the 4th Prince tonight is mainly to affect your state of mind. As long as your heart is disturbed, tomorrow you will surely lose the battle on the altar of life and death. In the battle of life and death, once lost, there is only one way to die." Zhang Ruokan said, "Take me to the 4th brother's residence immediately, I want to see who dares to do it today." Lu Chengfeng was very confident in Zhang Ruokan, and took Zhang Ruokan and the other 3 freshmen to rush towards Zhang Shaoku's dormitory. Zhang Ruokan is the first freshman, so he can live in the Longwu Hall and enjoy the best treatment. The top 10 freshmen and the top 100 students in the Western Academy can also have separate dormitories, although they are not as luxurious as the Dragon Martial Palace, at least they are very comfortable and suitable for cultivation. As for the other students, they can only live in ordinary dormitories, and 4 people live in one room. Zhang Shaoku is just an ordinary student, and he lives in such a dormitory. His 3 roommates were beaten by Nai Xian and their noses were bruised and swollen, and they flew out, lying on the ground and vomiting blood. Nai Xian grabbed Zhang Shaoku's shirt with one hand and lifted Zhang Shaoku up from the ground, with a cold smile on his face. Zhang Shaozu, your 2 arms have healed? But my hands are forever gone. What do you say? Nai Xian's palm was cut off by Zhang Ruoken, so he installed a short sword of the true martial treasure level at the position of his wrist, embedded the sword body in his wrist, and connected it with the meridians in his arm. It's not Zhang Shaozu, it's Zhang Shaoku. Zhang Shaoku clenched his teeth and said in a low voice. He was still a little afraid of Nai Xian, and he was very unconfident in speaking. As soon as Nai Xian's arm was raised, a sharp sword was placed on Zhang Shaoku's right ear, and he only needed to swipe down lightly to cut off his right ear. Nai Xuanyan smiled and said, "Hee. As long as you say that Zhang Ruoken is a coward and a long man with a shrunken head, I will let you go this time. How's that?" Wang Lang, Xie Zhaou, and the other warriors of the Quartet County who were standing on the side all showed playful smiles. Zhang Shaoku was very angry, although he was afraid, he still mustered up his courage and said, "Are you dreaming? Do you believe that the 9th brother will cut off your other hand?" Nai Xian's face sank, and he said, "I don't know what to do." Nai Xian's arm swung down suddenly, and he was about to cut off Zhang Shaoku's right man. Even Zhang Shaoku was so frightened that he sweated all over, closed his eyes, and let out a miserable scream from his mouth. However, no matter how hard Nai Xian tried, the sword embedded in his arm just couldn't fall. The blade of the sword was caught between 2 fingers and stopped in mid-air. The owner of those 2 fingers is naturally Zhang Ruoken. Smack! Zhang Ruoken's fingers turned jade white, and 2 strands of true qi surged to the fingertips, producing a twisting force that shattered the sword. A powerful force spread from the sword body to Nai Xian's arm, shaking Nai Xian's whole body in pain, and he fell backwards, almost hitting the wall. Nai Xian raised his arm and looked at the broken sword, his face showed surprise, and said, "I actually used 2 fingers to break the 3rd order true martial weapon level sword." Bang! Zhang Ruoken threw half of the tip of the sword on the ground, stared at Nai Xian coldly, and said, "Nai Xian, what kind of ability is it to bully my 4th brother? How about I accompany you to practice 2 moves?" Nai Xian was stunned by Zhang Ruoken's hand just now, and he didn't dare to answer. The 3rd order true martial weapon level battle sword, made of rare true iron, was so tough, but it was pinched off by Zhang Ruoken's 2 fingers. In this case, Zhang Ruoken's 2 fingers will definitely be able to break his neck. Zhang Ruoken's gaze moved away from Nai Xian's body, and then looked at the other students from the Quartet Counties, and said, "Since they are all here, let's go together. I'd like to see how many skills you students from the quartet have to do." Nai Xian, Xie Zhaou, and the other students from the Quartet County all retreated slightly, and were suppressed by Zhang Ruoken's momentum. Half an hour later. "Zhang Ruoken, are you really too much of a help?" After a short period of fright, Nai Xian remembered that Zhang Ruoken was just a cultivator in the middle of the Suanji realm, so why should he be afraid of him? He hated Zhang Ruoken to the core, took a step forward, and wanted to fight with Zhang Ruoken, and he was ashamed. Zhang Ruoken glanced at Nai Xian and said, "You are not my opponent, if you fight with me, you will definitely lose." Nai Xian sneered and said, "Last time I was defeated by you, it was just because I was too careless. If I use my true power, it will be enough to suppress you." Zhang Ruoken knew that the true power that Nai Xian was talking about was referring to the blood qi condensation beast and the blood qi condensation soldier. When you reach the small pole, you can condense the beast with blood. When you reach the middle pole position, you can condense your blood. Zhang Ruoken said lightly, "I can give you a chance to take revenge, but what if you still lose?" Nai Xian said, I swear to the great virtuous female holy emperor that if I am defeated by you again, I will never trouble you and Zhang Shaoku again in the future. Wherever you are, I will retreat. This oath still carries a lot of weight. Because, he swore an oath to the holy emperor of great virtue, if he violated the oath, it would be tantamount to disrespect to the holy emperor of great virtue, and it was inevitable to raid the house and destroy the door. Who is the holy empress? It is the current master of the Kunlun realm, Empress Qi Yao. Zhang Ruogan said, since this is the case, let's fight. Nai Xian is not. The reason why he insists on fighting with Zhang Ruogan is actually to help Feng Zhilan test Zhang Ruogan's reality in advance. If Zhang Ruogan is really strong, then tomorrow's decisive battle between Feng Zhilan and Zhang Ruogan will no longer be able to underestimate the enemy, and he will definitely go all out. Zhang Ruogan didn't think about it so much, whether it was Nai Xian or Feng Zhilan, they were all small characters, and they didn't need to waste so much scheming on them. Blood condensation beast. All the pores of Nai Xian's whole body were opened, overflowing wisps of blood. The dense blood qi condensed a more than 7-meter-long python phantom behind him. Although the phantom was still very faint, he could still see the form of the python creature clearly. A beast-like blood surged towards Zhang Ruogan. Nai Xian's fingers turned golden, exerting all his strength, and pointed at Zhang Ruogan's eyebrows. In the eyes of the students next to him, when Nai Xian pointed out his finger, the anaconda phantom behind him also flew out. Two forces, superimposed. Zhang Ruogan also stretched out a finger and condensed the jade pure true qi on the fingertips, and the fingers turned jade white. With a finger, a sword qi flew out from between his fingers, like a white sword rainbow, hitting Nai Xian's fingertips. The two fingers collide together, like the tip of a needle against a wheat. Bang! The anaconda phantom shattered and turned into wisps of blood. Nai Xian retreated violently, his fingers were cut by the sword qi, and drops of blood flowed out. Zhang Ruogan didn't use martial arts just now, just a random finger. With his current sword at the pinnacle of the Kendo realm, he can also shoot a powerful sword wave with a finger in his hand. It's so strong! Nai Xian secretly screamed. Compared to a month ago, Zhang Ruogan's cultivation was much stronger, which made Nai Xian feel unbelievable. Blood condensation. Nai Xian decided to use his strongest move. If he still couldn't defeat Zhang Ruogan, then immediately admit defeat. The blood qi in the body continued to gather on the top of the head, condensing into a 3-foot blood sword, the tip of the sword pointing downward, slowly rotating. Wow! With a finger, the phantom of the blood sword let out a sword whistle and stabbed towards Zhang Ruogan. Nai Xian bullied Zhang Shaoku again and again. How could Zhang Ruogan let him go so easily? This time, Zhang Ruogan took the initiative to make a move. His body flashed to the right, and he moved half a meter horizontally, dodging the blood sword. A flower in front of him, a figure flashed, and before Nai Xian could react, Zhang Ruogan slapped his palm on his chest. With a bang, Nai Xian felt that Zhang Ruogan's palm seemed to weigh 10,000 catties, his ribs seemed to be broken, his internal organs seemed to explode, and his body flew out involuntarily. Poof! Nai Xian flew in mid-air, licked his throat, and spat out a mouthful of blood from his mouth. He physically slammed a humanoid hole in the door of the dormitory, and fell from the second floor of the dormitory to the pile of rubble on the first floor. Bang! Because he was too seriously injured, Nai Xian collapsed in the stone pile and fainted. Zhang Ruogan withdrew his palm, flicked his sleeve lightly, looked at the other warriors of the Quartet County, and said, "Who wants to fight me?" Nai Xian is the ultimate cultivator in the Suanji realm, and he is completely inadequately in front of Zhang Ruogan. Who of the other students would dare to fight him? Zhang Shaoku didn't expect Zhang Ruogan to be so powerful, and he was no longer afraid of those students from the Sifang County, so he walked to Zhang Ruogan's side with a round belly and said, "Ninth brother, you must avenge me. When you didn't come to the western courtyard, Wang Lang and Qing Haitian often bullied me, not only robbing me of my cultivation resources, but also often stripping me of my clothes, making me lose face in the western courtyard. Zhang Shaoku pointed at two of the students and said angrily. If it had been before, he would never have dared to speak out about his grievances, and he would not even dare to complain to the elders of the Academy Palace. But now it's different, the ninth brother has such a great ability, he can definitely cover him in the west courtyard. As long as the ninth brother is here, who would dare to bully him? Since there is someone to support him, he will be bold. Zhang Ruokan's heart sighed secretly. It seems that this fourth brother really can't suffer a lot in the west courtyard, otherwise how could a noble prince become so cowardly? That's right, it's cowardice. He can clearly feel the timidity and fear in Zhang Shaoku's heart. The fourth brother must be allowed to regain his confidence. Zhang Ruokan's eyes looked at Wang Lang and Qing Haitian, and said, Wang Lang, Qing Haitian, are you really the royal family of our Yunwu County country without one? You humiliated my fourth brother, and it should be reasonable for me to seek justice from you now, right? Wang Lang and Qing Haitian are both extremely high cultivators in the Suanji realm, and they can be regarded as martial arts masters. Although Zhang Ruokan defeated Nai Xian just now, they didn't show any fear. Wang Lang's eyebrows were thick, his eyes were like swords, and he said coldly, Zhang Ruokan, what are you proud of? Will you survive tomorrow? No matter how strong Zhang Ruokan is, no one believes that he can defeat Feng Zhilan. Zhang Ruokan smiled slightly and said, no matter what the outcome is tomorrow, at least I can teach you a lesson today. Let you learn to respect your classmates. Wang Lang and Qing Haitian glanced at each other and nodded at the same time. Blood condensation. Wang Lang and Qing Haitian performed their strongest tricks at the same time, stimulating the power of the bloodline, and condensing the phantom of a soldier above their heads. To deal with Zhang Ruokan, they did not dare to underestimate the enemy. The phantom above Wang Lang's head is a scimitar, and the phantom above Qing Haitian's head is a short halberd. The two of them attacked Zhang Ruokan from the left and right directions at the same time. Wang Lang mobilized his true qi, slashed out the scimitar phantom, and slashed at the top of Zhang Ruokan's head. Wisps of blood and qi shuttled across the shadow of the knife, making a whistling sound. Qing Haitian's palm slapped, and the short halberd phantom above his head flew out, turning into a blood-colored pillar of light, hitting Zhang Ruokan's heart. At this moment, everyone was surprised to find that Zhang Ruokan's body was actually split into two, and he attacked Wang Lang and Qing Haitian at the same time. Bang! Bang! The bloody knife phantom and the blood halberd phantom shattered at the same time. Wang Lang and Qing Haitian were beaten away by Zhang Ruokan, fell from the top of the second floor, fell heavily to the ground, their heads were bleeding, and they fell quite miserably. Outside the dormitory, there were many students, all of whom came to see the excitement, and many of them were young and beautiful female students. When Nai Xian fell from the top of the second floor, everyone was only slightly frightened. After all, Nai Xian broke an arm, and his strength must have decreased. Even if he was defeated by Zhang Ruokan, it would not be a strange thing. Subsequently, Wang Lang and Qing Haitian were also beaten out by Zhang Ruokan, and everyone was quite shocked. Zhang Ruokan is just a freshman, how can he be so powerful? A woman in her early 20s, wearing a white school robe, looked in the direction of the second floor of the dormitory, wondering what Zhang Ruokan looked like. Beating two masters at the same time, few freshmen can be so strong. Nai Xian, Wang Lang, and Qing Haitian are all extremely high cultivators in the Suanji realm, and they were all defeated by him. It's really amazing. If Zhang Ruokan is really so powerful, then tomorrow's decisive battle on the platform of life and death will be very interesting. Look, look, Zhang Ruokan is out. Those female students all shouted, and their beautiful eyes all looked towards Zhang Ruokan, who was standing on the second floor. Wow! He's so young, I guess he's not even 20 years old. Freshmen come first, and temperament is different. If he can defeat Feng Zhilan tomorrow, I will make up my mind to chase him, and if he can become a princess, it will be very good. Hi! A beautiful student who had cultivated to reach the great perfection of the Suanji realm said. She seemed to be very interested in Zhang Ruokan, her beautiful eyes rippled, and she looked at Zhang Ruokan carefully. Zhang Ruokan jumped up, flew up from the second floor, like a leaf, and fell to the ground lightly, glanced at Wang Lang and Qinghai Tian, who were lying on the ground, and said, "Since you have stripped the fourth brother of his clothes, let him lose face in the west courtyard. Now, then, you will strip naked and run around the west courtyard 3 times, and I will consider letting you go." Wang Lang and Qinghai Tian stared at Zhang Ruokan with some horror, but they didn't expect Zhang Ruokan to be so powerful. With his current cultivation, maybe he can really compete with Feng Zhilan. "Zhang Ruokan, don't you deceive people too much." Wang Lang clenched his teeth and said fiercely. Lu Chengfeng rushed out and kicked Wang Lang in the chest, kicking Wang Lang to vomit blood, and scolded, "Who deceives people too much? Actually said that His Royal Highness the 9th Prince deceived people too much? When you bullied our students from Yunwu County, why didn't you know that you were bullying people too much?" Smack! Lu Chengfeng gave full play to the evil nature, and slapped Qinghai Tian's face again, causing half of Qinghai Tian's face to swell, and said fiercely, "What's wrong with bullying people? Young Master Ben deceived you today, how dare you? His Royal Highness the 4th Prince, Huo Shao and Situ Shao, you all come over and beat these 2 bastards severely. If you don't beat them, they won't have a long memory." Lu Chengfeng looked like he was showing off his might, beckoned to a few students from Yunwu Zhengguo in the crowd, and motioned for them to come over and beat Wang Lang and Qinghai Tian together. Anyway, with Zhang Ruokan's support, Lu Chengfeng is not afraid of anything. After seeing Zhang Ruokan's powerful cultivation, those freshmen of Yunwu County were not too afraid, and rushed out one after another, punching and kicking Wang Lang and Qinghai Tian. Even Zhang Shaoku rushed over, raised his foot and kicked Wang Lang's crotch. This move cut off the feet of the children and grandchildren, and the pain made Wang Lang spasm all over his body, and his legs trembled. You want to rebel?" Wang Lang roared, endured the pain coming from his crotch, and activated the true qi in his body, ready to resist. Lu Chengfeng slapped it out, slashed on the top of Wang Lang's head, knocked Wang Lang to the ground again, and said, "It's not a small courage, but you dare to resist. Break the legs of the 2 of them, strip them naked, and throw them in the middle of the martial arts field in the west courtyard. Young Master Ben wants to see who would dare to bully our students from Yunwu County in the future." Qinzhu, who was lying not far away, had already woken up and saw Wang Lang and Qinghai Tian, who were being beaten, so he honestly closed his eyes again and continued to pretend to be dizzy. Lu Chengfeng walked over to Zhang Ruokan, smiled slightly, and said, "Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, do you think my approach will be too much?" Zhang Ruokan didn't know what to say. If he was asked to beat Wang Lang and Qinghai Tian in person, he would be really embarrassed to do it. However, for the students of the Quartet County, they should indeed be taught some lessons. Only when they really hurt them, in the future, when they want to deal with the students of Yunwu Zhengguo, will they have consideration in their hearts. Lu Chengfeng saw that Zhang Ruokan didn't speak, and knew that Zhang Ruokan acquiesced to his behavior. In the crowd, there was a noise. Feng Zhilan walked out of the crowd with more than a dozen young students and stood opposite Zhang Ruokan. Just now, someone informed Feng Zhilan of the news, so Feng Zhilan immediately rushed over. Feng Zhilan roared coldly and said, "Enough." The sound was mixed with true qi, like a muffled thunder explosion. Lu Chengfeng, Zhang Shaoku, and other students from Yunwu County were obviously more afraid of Feng Zhilan's powerful cultivation. Therefore, when they saw Feng Zhilan arrive, they immediately stopped and retreated behind Zhang Ruokan. "The wind is less, you can be sure to. Certain. You want to avenge us." Qinghai Tian was lying on the ground, his clothes were stripped off, his face was red and swollen, his head was broken and bleeding, and even his legs were smashed by Zhang Shaoku with a boulder, which was unbearable. Feng Zhilan saw the injured person who was crushed under the boulder, frowned slightly, and said with some displeasure, "Who are you?" "I'm Green Qinghai Tian." Qinghai Tian's voice was muffled, and he couldn't even speak clearly. "Are you Qinghai Tian?" Feng Zhilan walked over, carefully looked at Qing Haitian lying on the ground, and finally determined Qing Haitian's identity. There was no way. Lu Chengfeng and Zhang Shaoke were too ruthless, and they beat Wang Lang and Qing Haitian to the point where they didn't look like humans, so Feng Zhilan didn't recognize Qing Haitian. Bang! Feng Zhilan slapped out and knocked the boulder that was pressed on Qing Haitian's legs into the air. Looking at Qing Haitian, who was lying on the ground and miserable, with a cold and sharp look in his eyes, he said, "Zhang Ruoken, everyone is a student of the West Academy, you guys are too ruthless." Zhang Shaoke said, "Let's hate? When you broke my arms a month ago, why didn't you feel like you were ruthless?" Feng Zhilan's eyes shrank, and a cold glint flashed in his pupils. "Zhang Shaozu, do you really think that Zhang Ruoken can protect you? When he dies on the platform of life and death, young Master Ben will slowly clean you up." Zhang Shaoke thought of Feng Zhilan's ruthless methods, his heart was slightly cold, and he couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Zhang Ruoken took 2 steps forward and said, "Feng Zhilan, you are too arrogant, do you really think you can win me?" The two were 5 steps apart, their eyes staring at each other, and the momentum on their bodies continued to rise. Feng Zhilan stared at Zhang Ruoken's eyes, and suddenly, a smile appeared on his face, and said, "It seems that the 9th prince is full of confidence in himself. Since this is the case, then don't wait for tomorrow. Tonight we will go to the life and death platform and fight for life and death." Then, he smiled slowly, "I just don't know, 9th prince, do you dare?" Zhang Ruoken also showed a faint smile and said, "Okay. Tonight, then." Lu Chengfeng was still relatively smart, and said, "Your Royal Highness the 9th prince, don't fall for Feng Zhilan's scheme. You just fought 3 masters in the Xian extreme realm in a row, and now you are fighting him in a decisive battle against the altar of life and death, you will definitely suffer." That's right, Feng Zhilan played with this idea. When Feng Zhilan saw Naixuan, Wang Lang, and Qing Haitian lying on the ground, he knew that Zhang Ruoken must have cultivated to a great advancement and was a strong opponent. He firmly believed that after Zhang Ruoken fought against 3 martial arts powerhouses in a row, his physical strength and true qi must have been consumed in large quantities. That's why he proposed to go to the decisive battle of life and death tonight, wanting to maximize his advantages. Feng Zhilan is not a brainless maniac, but very intelligent. Zhang Ruoken didn't care so much, because he didn't waste much effort to defeat Naixuan, Wang Lang, and Qing Haitian. Since Feng Zhilan proposed to go to the stage of life and death tonight to duel, Zhang Ruoken also wanted to solve the trouble as soon as possible, so he agreed. The news of Zhang Ruoken and Feng Zhilan's early duel soon spread in the West Courtyard. Many students who were originally practicing in retreat also went out of the customs one after another and rushed to the platform of life and death, ready to see the excitement. In the West Academy, although there were often fights between the students, few people dared to duel on the platform of life and death. After all, in the academy, no matter how big the trouble is, you don't dare to make a fuss. As long as you work hard and be brave after being ashamed, there is still a chance for revenge. The platform of life and death is different. Basically, there is a great hatred, and the 2 warriors will duel on the stage of life and death. Once a student ascends to the stage of life and death, either you die or I live. Every year, it is estimated that there will only be 1 or 2 duels in the West Academy, and most of them are conflicts between 2 male students in order to get the favor of a female student, or 2 female students in order to compete for a male student. Don't underestimate female students, especially those in the West Academy. Once they fight, they are even more terrible than the male students. Tonight's duel between life and death is particularly concerning, because one of them is the first freshman this year and has extremely high talent. Everyone was very curious, if such a genius student was defeated on the stage of life and death, would the elders of the Academy Palace interfere? This matter did reach the ears of the elders of the Western Courtyard. When Elder Xiet, who had a good impression of Zhang Ruoken, heard the news, his brows furrowed tightly, and he said to himself, "Why didn't this little guy tell the old man about this?" And he had to go to the life and death platform duel with Feng Zhilan. With his cultivation, can he defeat Feng Zhilan? Elder Xie also knew about the grievances between Zhang Ruogan and Feng Zhilan, and originally thought that if Zhang Ruogan took the initiative to tell him about the matter and ask him for help, he would definitely help Zhang Ruogan resolve this conflict. However, a month had passed, and Zhang Ruogan had not come to him, thinking that Zhang Ruogan had already told the other elders about the matter, so he did not ask more. It wasn't until this moment, when the news came, that Elder Xie discovered that the incident had developed to such a bad level. Yunmu Zhengguo finally gave birth to a genius student in the Wuxi Academy Palace. You must not die on the platform of life and death like this, the old man should go and persuade him. Elder Xie said. Xie Nantian was originally a martial artist of Yunmu County, so he naturally favored Zhang Ruogan, hoping that Zhang Ruogan could grow up and become a high level of Wuxi Suigong and Wuxi Qianzhuang. At the same time, the news also reached the Dragon Martial Palace. It's a life and death duel tonight, it's interesting, I want to see what state he has cultivated in the past half a month. After Duan Muxingling learned the news, a playful smile appeared on his face, turning into a cyan shadow, flying through the night sky, and rushing towards the direction of the life and death terrace. Duan Muxingling was not worried that Zhang Ruogan would lose at all. She was just curious about Zhang Ruogan's cultivation results in the past half a month. When Duan Muxingling rushed to the platform of life and death, he found that on the stands in the distance, there was a beautiful woman who was captivating the country and the city, and the bright moonlight sprinkled on her body, as if she was covered with a layer of holy light, and every inch of her skin was crystal clear, which was indescribably amazing. On her back, she carried an ancient sword, had royal blue waist-length hair, beautiful curves on her body, and a cold temperament, like a fairy from the moon palace descending from the sky. The other students didn't dare to approach her at all. This woman, who is like a fairy descending to earth, is none other than Huang Yanchen. You know, she is one of the 3 female devils in the west courtyard, who dares to approach her. Sister Chen, you actually arrived before me. Duan Muxingling's eyes narrowed, turned into a long series of after-images, and flew to Huang Yanchen's side. Huang Yanchen looked at Zhang Ruogan in the distance, with an icy chill in his eyes, and said, I'm here to see how he was killed by Feng Zhilan. Duan Muxingling smiled mysteriously and said, he is the number 1 yellow character of our Dragon Martial Palace, and he is extremely talented, you have to have faith in him, maybe he will defeat Feng Zhilan if he is not careful. A martial artist in the middle of the Suanji realm, a martial artist who defeated the great Pole of the Suanji realm, is there such a genius in the history of the Martial City Academy? Huang Yanchen shook his head gently, not very optimistic about Zhang Ruogan. But I heard that he has reached the late stage of the Suanji realm and has cultivated to the great advance. Duan Muxingling smiled. Huang Yanchen said, even if you reach the late stage of the Suanji realm, there is still a difference of 3 realms. Huang Yanchen herself is a top genius, so she knows the ability of a genius very well. Some geniuses are invincible in the same realm. Some geniuses are able to cross 1 realm, or even 2 realms, and defeat their opponents. However, it is too difficult to defeat an opponent across 3 realms, and such a genius is extremely rare. What's more, Feng Zhilan is still a student of the Western Academy. Which of the students recruited by the West Academy is not a genius? Feng Zhilan is definitely a top-notch existence among the martial artists of the Great Pole rank of the Suanji realm, and he can even deal with 3 or 5 martial artists of the Great Pole rank of the Suanji realm at the same time. Therefore, if Zhang Ruogan wants to defeat Feng Zhilan, it is basically impossible. It's not just Huang Yanchen who thinks so, but many of the students present are almost not optimistic about Zhang Ruogan, feeling that this is a battle without suspense. What if Zhang Ruogan defeated the 3 extreme martial artists in the Suanji realm? The martial artists of the Middle Pole and the warriors of the Great Pole are not at the same level at all. The platform of life and death is a white stone platform up to 30 meters high, 9 zhang square, and is piled up with 10,000 caddies of boulders that are polished and smooth. Underneath the platform of life and death, there are dense sharp iron thorns. Each thorn was 2 meters long, and some of them seemed to have blood on their tips. If a warrior falls from the platform of life and death, even if he is not killed, he will be pierced through his body by iron thorns. Therefore, once you get on the platform of life and death, you must distinguish between life and death. Even if you want to, you can't escape. Fengshilin is very confident in his own strength, and has already stepped onto the stage of life and death one step ahead. He stood in the center of the platform of life and death, looking heroic, looking around, looking at the beautiful female students standing in the stands, showing a calm and chic smile. In this battle, he has the confidence that he will win. Ninth brother, you must be careful. Zhang Shaoku held Zhang Ruogan's hand tightly, with a worried look in his eyes. Zhang Ruogan smiled, it's okay, it's just a Fengshilin. Zhang Ruogan. Ziyiqian walked out from among the many students, wearing a white martial robe, with a belt wrapped around her slender waist, outlining a slender and feminine figure. The students around him, all eyes straightened. They didn't expect that there would be such a beautiful woman among the students of Yunwu County, even compared to those three female demons. Everyone couldn't help but make a way, like the stars holding the moon, surrounding Zixi in the center. Ziyiqian walked in front of Zhang Ruogan and stared at her deeply, without showing any emotional fluctuations, and said, "Kill Feng Zii, I also have a share. I'll take your place and fight the Wind Forest." Zhang Ruogan looked at Ziqian, and felt a wonderful aura on her. "Have you reached the extreme position of the Xian extreme realm?" Zhang Ruogan's eyes lit up. Ziyiqian nodded and said, "That's right." Zhang Ruogan was not surprised. After all, Ziyiqian had the blood of a sage, plus she was rewarded with 2,000 merit points, and she was completely able to exchange a large number of high-level cultivation resources in the Martial City Academy. With her talent, coupled with a large amount of cultivation resources, it is not too exaggerated to break through the bottleneck and break through to the middle pole of the Xian extreme realm within a month. You must know that Zhang Ruogan just took spiritual flesh, and did not deliberately practice the exercises. All the time was spent on cultivating martial arts, and it only took more than a month to break through the realm. Zhang Ruogan and Ziyiqian's biggest advantage is that there is no shortage of cultivation resources. Congratulations! Zhang Ruogan said again. However, Fengshilin and I have already made an appointment to fight on the platform of life and death, and you are too late. You can make an appointment with him next time. A hint of discoloration flashed in Ziyiqian's eyes, and she said again, "Zhang Ruogan, are you sure to defeat Fengshilin? It shouldn't be difficult." Zhang Ruogan said with a smile. Hearing Zhang Ruogan's words, the warriors of the Sifang County who were standing not far away all scolded secretly, "Maniac! Wait and see." Zhang Ruogan thought that it would be great to defeat Naixian, Wang Lang, and Qing Haitian, but he didn't know that none of the three of them could defeat Fengshilin's move. Waiting for the platform of life and death, Zhang Ruogan will definitely regret it. In the distance, Elder Xie saw Zhang Ruogan step by step onto the stage of life and death, and he was a little anxious, so he wanted to use his body to catch up with Zhang Ruogan. If Zhang Ruogan ascends the platform of life and death, it will be too late. At this moment, a silver phantom flashed from Elder Xie's side and pressed his palm on Elder Xie's shoulder. "Elder Situ, what are you doing here?" A cold light shot out of Elder Xie's eyes, and he said angrily. Elder Situ still pressed his palm on Elder Xie's shoulder, stopping Elder Xie from rushing over, and said with a smile, "Elder Xie, don't be impatient. It's just a duel between two juniors, so why do you have to meddle in?" Elder Xie looked at Zhang Ruogan, who was about to ascend the stage of life and death in the distance, and his heart became even more anxious. "Don't you know that Zhang Ruogan is the fourth genius in the history of the Western Courtyard to break through the second level of the third layer of the Martial Tower? If he is killed by Fengshilin on the platform of life and death, what a great loss will it be for the Western Courtyard?" Elder Situ put away the smile on his face and snorted coldly, "What if you have high talent? In the first round of the Academy exam, he killed nearly 100 candidates. How many talents did the Academy lose? He was so thirsty for killing at a young age, and when he became a strong man, wouldn't he want to cause more killing? Such a genius, the Martial City Academy doesn't want it. Elder Xie said, Elder Situ, have you seen Zhang Ruoken kill with your own eyes? Naturally, someone saw it with their own eyes. Elder Situ's eyes were cold, and he said, besides, Zhang Ruoken killed Feng Zhilan's own brother, can't Feng Zhilan avenge his own brother? Another elder also rushed over, not wanting Elder Situ and Elder Xie to get into too much trouble, so he persuaded, Elder Xie, why are you just the elders of the Academy Palace, as long as you are responsible for teaching them? As for the grievances between the students, we still try not to get involved. If the elders need to help them solve everything, it will only make these students develop a mentality of dependence, which will not benefit them. Elder Situ smiled and said, Elder Huo is right, since Zhang Ruoken is a genius, he should hone him more. If he can't even pass the level of Feng Zhilan, it can only mean that he has not become a strong man. If he had heard Elder Situ's words at another time, Elder Xie might have believed it. But now Zhang Ruoken is going to duel with Feng Zhilan on the platform of life and death, it can be said that he will definitely die, and he will hone a fart. At this time, Zhang Ruoken had already boarded and stood opposite Feng Zhilan. Elder Xie clenched his teeth and glared at Elder Situ angrily, but in the end, he still didn't burst out of anger. After all, Elder Situ's cultivation is above him, and if he fights with Elder Situ, he will definitely lose. Now I can only hope that Zhang Ruoken can escape from death, although there is little hope. Elder Situ looked at Elder Xie, who walked up to the stands with his sleeves flicked, a sneering smile appeared on his old face, and then he stared at the platform of life and death, and the smile on his face became even more cheerful. Whether Zhang Ruoken is a top genius or not has little to do with him, because Zhang Ruoken was neither led to the West Courtyard by him, nor is he his personal disciple, so even if Zhang Ruoken dies on the platform of life and death, he can only be blamed for his thin life. Thank you, Elder Zeto. Prince Huoxing came out of the night and bowed respectfully to Elder Situ. Then, he handed a purple gold box to Elder Situ and said with a smile, this is a Tianyun pill that my father gave to the elder, hoping to help the elder's cultivation reach a higher level. Elder Situ took the purple gold box and opened a gap in the box, and a strong medicinal fragrance immediately escaped from the gap. A smile appeared on Elder Situ's face, and he put away the purple gold box, and said, it's just a gesture, the county king is too polite. Prince Huoxing said with a smile, eradicating Zhang Ruoken is just a gesture for the elders, but for us in the quartet, it is a big deal. Yunwu County has already given birth to a Zhang Tiangi, if Zhang Ruoken is born again, 10 years later, who else will be the opponent of Yunwu County in the 9 counties of Lingzi? Elder Situ said, the old man is already a member of the quartet county, so he naturally has the obligation to help the county king clear these potential threats. Since Zhang Ruoken has come to the West Courtyard, the old man naturally can't let him grow up. Prince Huoxing nodded, looked at the 2 people on the stage of life and death, and said with a smile, after tonight, there will be no more Zhang Ruoken in the West Courtyard. Bang bang! The tops of the 16 bronze pillars around the platform of life and death emitted a series of explosions. 16 fireballs, burning in a brazier at the top of the copper pillar, illuminate the night. You are brave enough to really dare to ascend to the platform of life and death. Feng Zhilan stared at Zhang Ruoken with a smile on his face. Obviously, he was not praising Zhang Ruoken, but laughing at Zhang Ruoken's stupidity. Zhang Ruoken held his hands behind his back, stood straight, his clothes were like snow, and said with a smile, what do you say so much? Let's fight. Feng Zhilan's eyes were cold, and he said, okay. Since you want to die early, then I will fulfill you. The eyes of the 2 of them looked at the weapon rack on the edge of the life and death platform at the same time. On the weapon rack, there are all kinds of weapons, such as swords, knives, boring, guns, whips, spears, sticks, a total of 31 weapons. All warriors who ascend to the platform of life and death cannot bring their own blades, and can only use the weapons on the platform of life and death. It can be said that whoever grabs the weapon first will have the advantage. Wu! Feng Zhilan took the first step, turned into a white shadow, and rushed to the weapon rack on the stage of life and death. He took a fancy to an iron sword that was placed on the third floor of the weapon rack, and was about to pick it up. I grabbed 5 fingers, but I grabbed an empty one. Zhang Ruogan stood beside Feng's Hilin, pinched the iron sword in his hand, flicked it lightly with his fingers, and said, "There is no inscription engraved in the sword, it is just an ordinary iron sword. However, the material used to make the iron sword is good, and it seems that there is real iron in it, so it will not be easily broken." You. Feng's Hilin stared at Zhang Ruogan, who was close at hand, his face full of surprise. Just now, it was obvious that he was the first to take the sword, but Zhang Ruogan set off behind him, but he took the sword first. What does this mean? This shows that Zhang Ruogan's speed is above him. Rumble. The students standing in the stands were all shocked when they saw this scene. Zhang Ruogan's speed is still above the wind forest. Dare to ascend to the platform of life and death, and sure enough, he still has real skills. Zhang Ruogan's speed is so fast, he is almost invincible. That's not necessarily, if it weren't for the life and death platform, maybe Feng's Hilin would indeed not be able to defeat Zhang Ruogan. However, after all, the life and death platform is only 9 zhang long, and although Zhang Ruogan has an advantage in speed, the range that can be avoided is only so large. It shouldn't be difficult for Feng's Hilin to kill him. You have all overlooked the most important point. Zhang Ruogan's cultivation is much lower than Feng's Hilin, and his true qi reserves are definitely far inferior to Feng's Hilin. No matter how fast his speed is, Feng's Hilin will be able to consume him to death with his profound true qi. Prince Huoxing said coldly. The other students also felt justified and nodded their heads. A bunch of ignorant people. Duan Muxingling shook his head gently, his eyes looked towards Huang Yanchen, and said with a smile, "Sister Chen, you have personally said that if Zhang Ruogan defeats Feng's Hilin, you will spare his life." Huang Yanchen stared in the direction of the life and death terrace and said, "Wait until he wins." On the stage of life and death, Feng's Hilin only lost his mind for a short time, and immediately reacted. "Since you have lost your sword, choose your gun." He lifted a 9-foot-long iron spear on the 4th layer of the weapon rack, and sure enough, he swept the spear horizontally, and slashed towards Zhang Ruogan with a whistling sound. Zhang Ruogan took a step back, dodged the iron spear, his body was as light as a leaf, and he flew more than 10 zhang away. Chasing the wind. Feng's Hilin transported his true qi to his legs, and performed a human-level step, his legs seemed to be wrapped in a whirlwind, and he chased after him. Chased Zhang Ruogan 5 meters away, and he stabbed out another shot. True qi gushed out from the palm of the hand, passed through the barrel of the gun, and transmitted to the tip of the gun. A ball of flame came out from the tip of the iron spear, making the iron spear burn, like a dexterous fire snake flying in the air. True qi actually has a flame attribute. Zhang Ruogan looked at the spear that stabbed him and nodded lightly. With the strength that Feng's Hilin is showing now, he can at least compete with 4 ordinary Suanji realm great pole martial artists at the same time. Zhang Ruogan took a step sideways, his body was like a phantom, and he once again dodged a shot from Feng's Hilin's full strength. Feng's Hilin was quite annoyed, and said, "Don't hide if you have the ability, fight with me in a dignified manner. If you can't even touch the corner of my clothes, what right do you have to fight me?" Zhang Ruogan held the iron sword in his hand and said lightly, "Show all your skills, let me see if you are qualified to let me use the sword." Damn! A long roar came out of Feng's Hilin's mouth, and wisps of red blood gushed out of his body. The blood qi surged towards the ground, forming a circular blood array with a diameter of 5 meters on the ground. The blood qi is like a silk thread, and in the formation, it gathers into a series of lines, emitting a faint blood light, wrapping Feng's Hilin in the center. Blood vaporization array. Only by cultivating to reach the great pole of the Xian extreme realm can we do it. Moreover, the blood array condensed by Feng's Hilin does not seem to be a low-level blood array, but a medium-level blood array. The higher the level of the blood array, the greater the increase in the strength of the warrior. Red Flame Divine Spear. Feng's Hilin shook the spear horizontally, and the flame covering the surface of the spear became even hotter. This is a spirit-level low-grade marksmanship martial art, with a total of 8 moves, and Feng's Hilin has been completely successfully cultivated. Wow! The spear stabbed out, forming a cloud of fire, and in an instant, it stabbed in front of Zhang Ruoken. Under the increase of the blood array, the speed at which Feng's Hilin erupted was on par with Zhang Ruoken. Zhang Ruoken's eyes became serious, and he clenched the iron sword with 5 fingers, and slashed out horizontally, hitting the tip of the spear, shaking the spear away, and sealing all Feng's Hilin's next moves. Then, he stepped forward quickly, and a sword stabbed diagonally, stabbing at the armpit of Feng's Hilin's right hand. Feng's Hilin's face changed, and he immediately turned the spear and slashed at Zhang Ruoken's back with the tail of the spear. As soon as Zhang Ruoken rushed in front of Feng's Hilin, he felt like he had jumped into a quagmire. And his speed had obviously slowed down a lot. When I looked down, I realized that I had stepped into the blood array, and the speed was suppressed by the power of the blood array. At this moment, the sound of wind came from Zhang Ruoken's ears, and the tail of the spear hung above his head, and it could fall in an instant. If you are hit by a spear, you will be seriously injured, if not dead. Heavenly Heart Sword Bell. The true chi in Zhang Ruoken's body completely burst out, forming the phantom of a big bell, guarding the heart of the bell in his body. The tail of the spear slashed at the phantom of the sword bell, forming a powerful hedge inside. Boom! The two of them fell backwards at the same time, once again pulling away 10 meters away. Feng's Hilin stood sideways, sneered, and said, "Young Master Ben can condense a medium blood array, and the power of the blood array can improve my strength, and at the same time, it will also suppress your strength. Zhang Ruoken, you're dead." The blood array is quite similar to the space domain, but it is far less than the space domain. The reason why the martial artists of the Great Pole rank of the Suanji realm are much stronger than the martial artists of the Middle Pole rank is because the martial artists of the Great Pole rank can condense the blood array. Under the suppression of the power of the blood array, few martial artists in the Middle Pole were able to defeat the martial artists in the Great Pole position. Feng's Hilin actually condensed a medium blood array. It's really amazing. If you can give him a lot of cultivation resources, maybe you can make the West Courtyard have another Xianbang martial artist. Elder Situ gently twisted his beard and smiled knowingly. Elder Xie snorted coldly and said no more. It's over. Feng's Hilin condensed a medium blood array, and the power of the blood array was enough to compete with 6 or 7 martial artists of the same realm. His Royal Highness the 9th Prince is in trouble. Lu Chengfeng sighed. Is the medium blood formation strong? A freshman asked. Lu Chengfeng said, among the 10 martial artists of the Xian extreme realm, only one can condense a medium blood array. Do you say it is strong? If there are enough meridians opened up in Feng's Hilin's body, and the exercises and martial arts he cultivates are advanced enough, after he reaches the great perfection of the Suanji realm, he will even have a chance to become a Xianbang martial artist. No one dares to say that they will definitely be able to become a Xianbang martial artist, just look at the probability. The chances of 1%, although very low, are already very good. At least he has a chance to impact, and other martial artists don't even have a chance. Everyone was worried about Zhang Ruoken and didn't want Zhang Ruoken to be defeated. Once he is defeated, Lu Chengfeng will definitely not let him live. Medium blood array, not bad. Zhang Ruoken nodded lightly. If Zhang Ruoken used the space realm, he could naturally suppress Feng's Hilin and easily defeat him. However, Zhang Ruoken did not want to use the power of the space domain. Feng's Hilin saw that Zhang Ruoken was fearless, and let out a cold snort from his mouth, and attacked again. This time, he must pierce Zhang Ruoken's heart. Woo! As Feng's Hilin's marksmanship stabbed out, the air burned and there was a crackling popping sound. Zhang Ruoken didn't dodge, just when the spear stabbed within 3 meters of him, the flames on the spear reflected his face red. The heavenly heart is full moon. The 4th move of Tianxin sword technique. Zhang Ruoken's arm waved, and the spear drew a circle in the void, leaving 36 white sword shadows. 36 white sword shadows formed a circle, like a white bright moon held in his hand. Wow! 36 sword shadows flew out at the same time. Fengzhilan hurriedly changed from attack to defense, and kept waving his spear to smash the sword chi. However, there were still 7 sword chi flying in front of him, 4 of which hit his body, and the other 3 sword chi brushed over the surface of his skin, leaving only 3 shallow blood marks. Bang bang! Fengzhilan's clothes were punched out by the sword chi with 4 holes, and under the holes, pieces of metal scales were exposed. It turned out that he was wearing armor in his clothes, blocking the 4 sword chi just now. However, the power of the 4 sword chi just now was very powerful, and although it was blocked by the armor, it still shook Fengzhilan's blood chi and caused some minor injuries. Such a powerful sword, if Fengzhilan hadn't worn armor, even if he didn't die just now, he would have been seriously injured. Zhang Ruogan is only so young, how can his swordsmanship be so masterful? Elder Xie's eyes narrowed, and suddenly, a look of great joy appeared on his face, and he said, "The sword can go to the high-level realm with your heart." When the other elders heard Elder Xie's words, they also suddenly realized, that's right, the swordsmanship that Zhang Ruogan had just performed had indeed reached the realm of the sword walking at will. It's amazing. You must know that all of their elders are at the realm of the sword walking at will, and none of them have reached the peak of the sword at will. Duan Muxingling was also quite surprised, feeling incredible, and said, his attainments in swordsmanship are so terrifying. Once he breaks through the great perfection of the Xuanji realm, he will definitely become a Xianbang martial artist, and his ranking on the Xianbang will definitely not be low. She originally only knew that Zhang Ruogan's attainments in palm techniques were very high, but she didn't expect that Zhang Ruogan's attainments in swordsmanship were even higher. With such a high swordsmanship attainment, it seems that Zhang Ruogan has won. With a faint smile on his face, Duan Muxingling glanced at Huang Yanchen lightly, and said, Sister Chen, to a genius like Zhang Ruogan, you should be reluctant to kill, right? Huang Yanchen was also slightly moved. At Zhang Ruogan's age, he was able to cultivate to the high-level realm of the sword at will, and his talent was indeed amazing. No matter how talented you are, the character is too bad. Huang Yanchen thought about Duan Muxingling and stared at it, and said, you don't want me to accept him, do you? Duan Muxingling smiled, after all, that kind of thing has happened to you, what else can you do if you don't accept him? Humph. Even if I spare him from dying, I won't be able to accept him. Yellow Smoke Road. Sister Chen, this is what you said, if in the future, I accidentally fall in love with him and snatch him away, don't blame me. Duan Jupiterling's big eyes were slightly bent like 2 crescent moons. Huang Yanchen stared at Duan Muxingling carefully, speculating in his heart about the meaning of Duan Xingling's words just now, and said, you won't really take a fancy to him, will you? Duan Muxingling stood up on the towering peak, stared at Zhang Ruogan standing on the platform of life and death, and said with a smile, he is young, handsome, talented, and a prince, I can't find any shortcomings in him. If I accidentally like him, it's entirely possible. Huang Yanchen was a little displeased, and said, you're 2 years older than him, right? There's no way to be sisters. Duan Muxingling glared at Huang Yanchen with some resentment, and said, it seems that you are still reluctant to give it to me. Huang Yanchen also stared at Zhang Ruogan, his beautiful face could not see any emotional fluctuations, and said meaningfully, Xingling, do you think it is impossible for him to become a saint? Sage. Duan Muxingling's eyes also became serious, and he nodded, the sage has gone beyond the realm of martial artists and stepped into another state of life. In the entire 36 counties of the Heavenly Demon Mountains, there is not even a single sage. Although his talent is very high, it is almost impossible for him to become a saint. After a pause, Duan Muxingling said again, however, I think that if he can maintain his current cultivation state and continue to the heavenly extreme realm, he still has a chance to become a half-saint. Half-saint? Is it possible for him? Huang Yanchen's beautiful eyes had a complicated look, and he always felt that he couldn't see through Zhang Ruogan. This young man, although his cultivation is not as good as her now, the potential he shows is shocking. Zhang Ruogan hid part of his strength, and did not show the sword intent of the sword to go to the peak with his heart. Once it is revealed, everyone will probably be even more shocked. Walking the high-level realm with a sword is already enough to defeat Fengshilin. The sword goes to the high-level realm with your heart. Fengshilin's face was very ugly. He never thought that Zhang Ruogan's realm in the way of the sword would reach such a powerful level. No, I'm not going to lose, I'm not defeated. I'm 3 martial arts realms above him, and I'm sure I'll be able to defeat him. Fengshilin clenched his teeth, did not admit defeat, waved his spear, and attacked again. Zhang Ruogan frowned slightly, and the tip of the sword pulled up an arc-shaped wave of qi. The form of the airflow was like a wave of water, and countless sword qi shuttled through the airflow, making the sound of the tide surging. Celestial Heart. With a swing of the sword qi turned into a 5-meter high wave, which slammed on Fengshilin's body, rolling Fengshilin upside down. Bang! The white martial robes on Fengshilin's body were shredded by the sword qi and turned into pieces of rags, leaving only a silver scale armor vest still on his body. Except for the place covered by the silver scale armor vest, in other parts of the body, all the sword qi cut out bloody wounds one after another, and the flesh and blood all over the body were blurred. This is still Zhang Ruogan's mercy, otherwise, the sword just now would be able to cut off Fengshilin's limbs and head. Fengshilin, you are defeated. Zhang Ruogan held the iron sword in his hand, walked over, pointed the tip of the sword at Fengshilin's neck, and said, I won't kill you, I only avenge the 4th brother and break your arms and bones. Wait. Fengshilin trembled, got up from the ground, knelt in front of Zhang Ruogan, kowtowed to Zhang Ruogan, and said, Zhang Ruogan, thank you. Thank you for not killing. Looking at Fengshilin kneeling in front of him, Zhang Ruogan's face was showing a look of doubt, and suddenly, he felt a dangerous aura. Not good. At this moment, Fengshilin suddenly raised his head, and spit out 3 silver needles in his mouth in a row. Wu! Shout! Whoa! Tongue arrow, the unique skill of the Feng family. Feng Zai could only use his tongue to shoot out a silver needle, but Fengshilin could spit out 3 in a row. In the stands in the distance, no one expected Fengshilin to suddenly attack. With such a close distance, let alone Zhang Ruogan, even a martial artist of the great perfection of the Suanji realm would be hit. Ding ding! Zhang Ruogan's iron sword swung and slapped on the 3 silver needles accurately, knocking the 3 silver needles upside down and flying back. One of the silver needles went down the throat of Fengshilin. The other 2 silver needles pierced Fengshilin's eyes. Huo Xing. King. Prince. Save me. Fengshilin pulled out the silver needle stuck in his throat, clutched his neck, and rushed towards the stage of life and death. However, his eyes were blind and he couldn't see the road at all, so he accidentally stepped on the air and fell down the 30-meter high platform of life and death. In a series of screams, Fengshilin fell into the iron thorn forest. His body was pierced out of more than 10 blood holes. He struggled twice, and completely lowered his arm, without a sound. Quiescence. The entire platform became extremely silent, and only the sound of everyone's breathing and heartbeat could be heard. Zhang Ruogan sighed softly. Originally he just wanted to teach Fengshilin some lessons, and he didn't think about killing him. Even if the bones of his arms are broken, as long as the muscles and bones are applied, he can still heal within half a month. Shaking his head, Zhang Ruogan stepped off the platform of life and death. Afterwards, all the students of Yunwu Zhengguo cheered and rushed towards Zhang Ruogan. His Royal Highness the 9th Prince is so powerful, even Fengshilin died in your hands. In the future, I want to see who else dares to bully our students of Yunwu County. A rather beautiful female student stared at Zhang Ruogan with adoring eyes and said, 9th Prince, the sword you defeated Fengshilin is really amazing. Can I learn swords from you? Lu Chengfeng saw that Zhang Ruogan seemed to be in a bad mood, guessed the reason, and said with a smile, Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, Fengshilin is to blame, and he died well, you don't need to take it to heart. Besides, it was he who fell to his death and died, and it has nothing to do with you at all. Zhang Ruoken nodded lightly and said lightly, since Feng Zhilin is dead, then this matter is over, and everyone is dispersed. The students of Yunwu Zhengguo were very excited, but Prince Huoxing's face was extremely cold, staring at Zhang Ruoken's departing back. Waste, Feng Zhilin is a waste, and he can't even kill a single Zhang Ruoken. A student from the Quartet County next to him said, what now? Do you want to let Zhang Ruoken go like this? Leave him alone? How is that possible? Prince Huoxing clenched his hands tightly and said coldly, I will repair a letter to my father now, let him spend a high price, and ask the killer of the Daifugate to get rid of Zhang Ruoken. If Zhang Ruoken does not die, he will become the great enemy of the quartet in the future. After the decisive battle of the life and death platform, Zhang Ruoken returned to the Dragon Martial Hall and began to continue practicing swordsmanship. On the third day, he was finally summoned by the master of the Western Courtyard. The owner of the West Courtyard, dressed in a golden robe, sat on a white stone by the pool, holding a fishing rod in his hand, and was fishing. Meet the master. Zhang Ruoken came behind the master of the West Courtyard and bowed slightly. Zhang Ruoken, do you know why the old man summoned you a month after the exam in the academy? The master of the West Courtyard was still pinching the fishing rod, staring at the pool, and did not turn to look at Zhang Ruoken. Zhang Ruoken said, the students don't know. During the examination in the school palace, Zhang Ruoken saw the master of the West Courtyard once, but that time it was too far away, and he just glanced at it casually. At this moment, Zhang Ruoken began to seriously look at this courtyard master, the only supreme powerhouse in the West Courtyard who could wear a golden robe. He looked like he was 70 or 80 years old, with a full head of grey hair, but yes, there is not a single wrinkle on the hands and side of the face, and there is no trace of the appearance of an old dragon clock. I don't know what kind of state this Western Academy master's cultivation has reached. Zhang Ruoken couldn't see through the cultivation of the master of the Western Courtyard at all. The master of the Western Academy put down the fishing rod, stood up, turned around and glanced at Zhang Ruoken, and said, do you know that the first freshman of each class will be accepted as a personal disciple by the Deputy Academy Master? Of course, if it is a freshman with excellent talents, the old man will also take in the apprentices himself. Your performance in the Martial Tower is quite outstanding, and at that time, the old man had already moved the idea of accepting disciples. The old man is outstanding, not that you have passed the second level of the third layer of the Martial Tower, but that you have passed the third level of the third layer of the Martial Pagoda and that you have defeated Luo Su in the same realm. Zhang Ruoken was slightly startled and said, does the courtyard master know about the things in the Wu Tower? Haha. The master of the West Courtyard laughed loudly and said, do you really think that in such an important place as the Wu Pagoda, only Huang Yetu and Duan Mu Yetu are guarding inside? There are secrets that even the two of them don't know. Then, the face of the master of the West Courtyard turned solemn and said, however, the old man does not object to the two of them. Even, if they didn't stop you at that time, the old man would personally stop you from ascending to the fourth floor of the Wu Pagoda. Zhang Ruoken said, is the courtyard master worried that my talent is too high and I will be assassinated by some people? The master of the Western Academy nodded, and said, the Martial City Academy Palace is not absolutely safe. Over the years, the Black Market and the Moon Worship Demon Sect have continued to infiltrate the academy, not only among the students, but also among some of the high-level members of the academy. If you had broken into the fourth floor of the Martial Tower, the forces of the Black Market would definitely spare no effort to kill you in the cradle, and it would be difficult for even an old man to shelter you. Zhang Ruoken said, the master of the hospital refers to the seedling cutting operation. The master of the West Courtyard sighed lightly and said, do you know the seedling cutting operation? You must know that the Black Market and Wuxi Qianzhuang have been antagonistic since ancient times, fighting each other, expanding their territory, and competing for market resources. Wuxi School Palace is the base camp of Wuxi Qianzhuang to cultivate talents, in order to defeat Wuxi Qianzhuang from the source. Therefore, the black market launched the seedling cutting operation, specifically assassinating the elite geniuses in Wuxi Suigong. 800 years ago, the black market launched an operation to cut seedlings, and of course Zhang Ruogan knew. Zhang Ruogan couldn't explain to the master of the Western Courtyard, so he could only push it onto the king of Yunwu County, and said, "Before I came to take the Academy Palace exam, I heard my father mention it once. Actually, I don't know much about the seedling slashing operation. It turns out that King Yunwu has already reminded you, so you don't need to say more about it." In the eyes of the master of the Western Courtyard, it was not a secret that the king of Yunwu County would learn about the seedling cutting operation. After all, the seedling killing operation had lasted for thousands of years, and it was not a secret. Zhang Ruogan's expression moved, and he said, "The reason why the courtyard master postponed summoning the students for a month is that he wants to use the students as bait to find out the evil people who infiltrated the black market and the moon worship demon sect into the western courtyard." "That's right." The master of the west courtyard smiled. "You won't hold a grudge against the old man, will you?" Zhang Ruogan said with a smile, "Since the head of the school has already told the students about this in person, how can the students hate the master of the house? I'm curious to know, has the master found out the evil man lurking in the western courtyard?" "I've found some clues, but I'm still waiting for the big fish to enter the net, and I believe that the net will be closed soon." The main road of the west courtyard. Afterwards, the master of the west courtyard said, "Zhang Ruogan, are you willing to worship the old man's master and become the old man's personal disciple?" There is a big difference between a student and a disciple. A single teacher can teach many students, but there are very few disciples who have been passed on to them. Once he becomes the personal disciple of the master of the west courtyard, it is equivalent to having one more backer. Then Zhang Ruogan's status in the west courtyard will immediately rise, and in the future, no one will dare to trouble him. Even in the inner palace of the Wuxi Academy, Zhang Ruogan's status is still higher than that of other inner palace students. However, Zhang Ruogan didn't want to worship the master of the west courtyard as a teacher, because he had too many secrets on his body and didn't want outsiders to know. If the master of the Western Academy were to be his teacher, some of these secrets would definitely be exposed. Zhang Ruogan respectfully saluted to the master of the west courtyard and said, "Thank you for the love, but the student wants to cultivate his own martial arts, and has no intention of apprenticeship for the time being." Surprisingly, the master of the west courtyard did not get angry, but instead smiled and said, "Hee hee. The old man has been the master of the western courtyard for 34 years, and he has taken the initiative to accept apprentices 11 times in total, and you are the second person to refuse the old man." Note, as mentioned earlier, the history of the western courtyard is only 460 years, and it refers to the western courtyard of the Wuxi Academy in the Heavenly Demon Mountains. The distribution of Wuxi Shui Palace covers the entire Kunlun realm, and its history is far more than 460 years.